The gentleman from Guam, Mr. San Nicolas, who is coming to us remotely, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to echo the sentiments of my bipartisan colleagues. I think this is the second subcommittee hearing we're having that I think has a lot of bipartisan interest. Madam Chairwoman, thank you so much for your leadership in helping us to come together on very key issues that are affecting the globe. I wanted to first just make sure we have it clear on the record, if we can just get a quick yes or no across the board from the witnesses. But what I'm hearing is that every single person on this panel agrees that the United States needs to, in some form or another, whether it's a CBDC or a stable coin, we need some form of digital currency. Is that a yes across the board?
I think he's asking for a yes or no across, so we'll start with Ms. Jin and just move to the right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes for CBDC.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And actually, Dr. Norloff, I would like to posit my next question directly to you because, and this is kind of tied into, I think, where Mr. Barr was going earlier about the difference between CBDC and stablecoin. We have the Federal Reserve, and they're responsible for monetary supply and a various host of other responsibilities in the financial system. We also have U.S. Treasury, and one of their primary responsibilities is the production of coin and currency. As we navigate going forward, what we see is a unanimous need for us to adopt some form of digital currency. Where should the leadership really come from? Should the leadership come from the Federal Reserve, or come from U.S. Treasury that has a responsibility to produce coin and currency? Dr. Norloff.
I think that the leadership should come from the Federal Reserve. I also want to say that for the CBDC, I think that progress in this area is especially important because that is really where China can make a difference to undercut the dominance of the dollar. If the CBDC, the Chinese CBDC, goes forward, we will see a very strong push towards a convertible renminbi, which will put the Chinese currency, really make it much more attractive for international investors. I would also like to highlight that for the CBDC, it's not just a China issue, it's a general issue. I mean, according to the Atlantic Council's research, there are about 104 countries that are currently exploring CBDCs. And I think that there are real opportunities for the Federal Reserve to assume leadership in this critical area.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to, I guess, posit the question across the board because I'm still trying to come to grips with the idea that, what has historically been a Treasury responsibility on the production of coin and currency will now potentially become also a Federal Reserve power if they are authorized to do so on the digital currency sphere. And so I'd like to also posit to the remaining panelists, is there a consensus that there's a belief that the Federal Reserve should be the one taking the lead on the digitization of U.S. currency, or should it be the Treasury? I guess we can go from right to left.
Mr. Levin, that would be you. I guess we're going the other way this time.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. I think that the question of oversight here is about primarily technology, and I would say that one clarification that I would like to sort of put forward is that actually we already have a lot of digital dollars in existence. In fact, a lot of our payment system is digital. We're not sort of sitting here with dollar bills. And so, that system is primarily, the Federal Reserve is primarily responsible for the technology that supports how we clear and settle those dollars. And so, it does make sense that as a pure technology play, that we think about what the future of that technology stack looks like, and that would come under the Federal Reserve. And there are some significant work in making sure that all of the institutions that are actually transacting in dollars and have access to that system, that they actually can, have buy-in and weigh in on the cybersecurity concerns and the AML concerns.
I agree with Mr. Levin in that it really depends on the technology itself. If we're talking purely about a CBDC, a central bank issued digital dollar, then certainly, obviously, the Federal Reserve is that's the function that the Federal Reserve has always taken when it comes to our currency. But when we're talking about U.S.-backed stablecoins globally, for payments, that could very well be something that is regulated, or the oversight comes from the Treasury Department. Just like other sort of technology, whether talking about securities or commodities, could be handled by other regulators. So I think today it really depends on the technology. But to the first question, the U.S. Doubling down on the need for a digital asset that holds our values and exports those values, whether it's a stablecoin or a CBDC, I think is certainly important.